Hello, Steffi here from The Makers. Thank you very much, Debbie, for this lovely introduction. Can't even speak. And it's really fun to be here today. And I hope you've had some really interesting insights into how I make things and how crafts work, and maybe discovered anything new. So if you're new to needle felting, then this will be of interest to you too. And if you're already one of our groupies, then you might remember us from the little mice that we made not so long ago on a live stream on Facebook. And I've allowed this little one here because he's the most well behaved, so he's allowed to watch. He's rather keen on fairies, so he's really interested to see how a fairy is born, basically. So that's quite a magical moment in time. We have these fairy boxes that you can purchase if you want to make a fairy just like this one here. But I should also say that we have got a competition running all Sunday over on our Facebook page, which is The Makers with 2 S's. And you can win yourself the very fairy that I'm making here today. So don't forget, just get to the end of all of this here first, so don't run away, but you can still watch it later on and pop over and get entered into the competition. So the fairy box comes as a subscription, or you can buy it as a single box. We've had quite a few over the last few months. The most recent one has been the Forget-Me-Not fairy. We've had the Pansy fairy here, and they're always packaged up in these lovely pink boxes, and they look really lush inside as well. Let's have a look what happens in here. So you get it with a bit of tissue paper, and then all the ingredients to make this particular wild rose fairy are in there. We don't just chuck a needle in there normally. We have it packaged up for you with a sharp needle warning sign as well, but I thought it saves me rustling and unpacking a lot of things. So I'm going to take all of these out now. I'm going to be working on close-up screens as well, so I'll just give you a flavor of that, and then you can see what I'm taking out of this box. So you get a felting needle, you get the pale green petticoat for the fairy, you get the core wool that you need to make the head, get these lush wild yellow curls. I always think that wild rose fairies, they're really wild at nature, so they have to have something in there that's definitely not orderly and all neat. There's some lovely Angelina fiber, that's for the wings. This is the top part of the fairy, the dress of the top part, and this, of course, that bright pink is the bottom part. And then you need the flesh pink to make the face and the hands and the arms. You also get an extra strong thread in there, which you will need, and I'll show you why. And you also get a little bit of silky thread to hang the fairy up. And let's not forget, get a tiny bird, which will perch on her hand at the end of it. So that's everything that you get in there. I'm going to go onto the bigger screen again now. Nearly said scream. It's not yet that bad that I need to scream, but it might happen. So there's the box. I'm just putting that there so you can see that there. And let's get started. So first of all, I should say, if you want to join in at any time into the conversation here, then hashtag the Creative Craft Show by using hashtag CCS Live. So that's hashtag C for Charlie, S for Sierra, Live, Live. And I don't know why I'm using such boring references to the alphabet. Should be something a lot more fun, like Creative Craft Show. So it's C for creative, and then C again for craft, and then S for show, live. So that's it, all capital letters. And if you want to ask any questions while I'm doing this tutorial, you want to know certain things about what we do or what concerns the fairy, then you can pop over onto our Facebook page. No, that's wrong. That's for the competition. You can tag us, the makers, by using the squiggly bit, the @ bit, the makers with 2 s's.co.uk. It sounds like a web address, but it is our Facebook tag. So it's like this, squiggly bit, and then the makers with 2 s's.co.uk, and that will ping up in our Facebook feed as somebody who wants to know something or has something to share. So you can do this throughout this tutorial and even after. That would be nice to hear from you. So let's get started. First of all, we need a pipe cleaner. I've already shortened this pipe cleaner into two pieces. So for this particular fairy, we have a short upper body because she's a hanging fairy. She hasn't got legs, like for example the little forget-me-not fairy from last month. She has got little legs hiding under there. I'm just going to show you her legs there without showing you her bloomers because that would be very undecent. So she's got little legs. For that you would need two pipe cleaners, but actually for a hanging fairy you will only need one pipe cleaner. And I've the shorter one that I have got here, I'm going to use to make the head. Now, making the head, it is a particular technique that is called, well, that I have called the moustache lollipop technique, and you will find out why that is. And for this, first of all, you need this lovely pink wool top, and I will explain a little bit about what is the difference between a top and a bat. And a top, you can see that they look very different, but let's find out what uses they are. So you've got long fibers, they're all aligned side by side, combed into this long top. The Americans call it roving, the British call it tops. And it's usually a merino of a kind if it's the really fine version, but you can turn anything into a top as long as you've got long fibers that can be lined up nice and parallel. It's great for wet felting, great for fairies, great for spinning, great for 2D needle felting, so for flat felting. We don't like it very much for 3D felting because it's quite flat and the shaping is quite hard to do with this. For this we love our bats. The bats is spelled B-A-T-T-S. It's got nothing to do with the flying kind. And you can already see it's a lot more 3D. It's like, looks already 3D basically. It's unfelted, but the fibers are shorter and they're all crisscrossed. They're brushed rather than combed. And this is great for making a bulky, a quicker bulky shape. So that was just on the side, and I'm going to go close up now so you can see me make the head. Okay, so I've got my pipe cleaner here, and I'm going to take some of this pink. I don't need all of it because I also need some for the hands and the arms later, so I split some off, and then I'm going to bend the pipe cleaner in like in a hook. I'm going to hook the wool onto it halfway, push that down, and then secure it by twisting the pipe cleaner end around the main one. Just going to tidy this up a little bit because you don't need to see all of this in the way while I'm working. There we go, put all of this out of the way. And now I've got, you can see why this is, why I've referred to this as a moustache. Great moustache. If you need to make one, hold it against your face and you can be in disguise instantly. Next bit, you use the white wool bat that you get in your kit, and you can tease this out a little bit because we do want this to be kind of string-like. It's hard because the fibers are so short, so you will could just easily tear it apart. And you start by wrapping the wool around the base of the moustache, and what you can see is I'm keeping this wool really nice and flat. So I'm not twisting it by not letting go of it. I don't want to do this because it becomes string-like. I'm actually doing it flat and always folding it over. Imagine you're wrapping a ribbon around this. So you want this to be nice and flat. So you're going over this until you've run out, or maybe there is too much. And in any case, the size of this little ball shape needs to be about 3 centimeters. So you can stab into it by going into the base, first of all, because that's how you make it nice and round. You don't need a felting mat to make this fairy because there's not terribly much felting, and just stab into it. If you've never needle felted before, the felting needle you get in this kit is sharp. If you stab yourself, it does hurt, promise you. It has got little notches at the end of the needle, which when you stab it into the wool, I don't know if you can see, I try and hold it a bit closer, it sort of pulls the fiber inward. So there is a reduction that takes place as you stab into it. And which I notice here because the head is becoming a little bit small. So to add more wool, you just, because you will have plenty in your kit, just repeat the process maybe with a little bit less, because we're almost there. Wrap it nice and tight if you can, and then the loose bits, they should sort of just almost stick to itself, and then just tuck the wispy ends in and make it as a firmer shape, and shape it a little bit so that it's rounder rather than kind of a bit square, the way it turns out when you wrap it like that. There we go. And then when you've done this, all you need to do now is, first of all, you need to, I'm just going to go big so that you understand why it's called a moustache lollipop. So it's basically your moustache and a lollipop all at once. That's it. That's why it's called a moustache lollipop. So now I'm going to put these loose fibers across the ball that I've felted underneath. And I'm doing this as neat as I can. But if it's not neat all around, it doesn't really matter, because a lot of this will be covered by hair. And so all you need is about a quarter of it to be nice looking, or 1/3, rather than all of it. So I have got gaps here on the side, but I'm not too worried about that. What I will do now is I'm going to hold this, and if the top of the pipe cleaner is poking out a bit too much, you can actually just pull it in from the other end, because you've secured the pink top really well on there. So I'm holding this really tight, and now you need the extra strong thread that you get in the kit, and you need to tie this around the base of this head that you've made nice and tight, still making sure that you have got one area that's still presentable and looks nice and smooth, because that's going to be the fairy's head face. So once you've tied it, you can cut this bit loose, and I'm going to leave this like that for now, because I'm going to work on the arms now. But this is basically how far you get, making the head and having these wispy ends and the end of the pipe cleaner still here. Now, when you get one of our kits, you always get in there the needle felt instructions to make basic shapes for angels, fairies and figures. And that allows you to make little fairies with, or people with legs, have a round stand at the bottom, or have the hanging version, which is this one here. And just to show you, these are the kind of things that you could be making once you know this particular technique. So I'm showing you quite a lot of this already today, making that wild rose fairy. But in the fairy box, you get this basic instruction sheet anyway, and then on top of that you get the specific instructions to make the wild rose fairy. And the wild rose fairy is our subscription box in July, but you can just buy the box on its own, and better still, you can also collect all of the other fairies that we've had in the past, but they are limited edition, and once they're gone, they're gone. Right, so moving on, we need the other part of the pipe cleaner, which is here. That needs to be about 17 centimeters, so this is slightly bigger. Whilst these pipe cleaners are really strong in that they don't flop, so they do break if you keep bending them back and forth. So I'm just going to break a bit off, because you'd be so appalled to know that I usually use scissors to cut them. There, haven't done it, I've just broken it off. And I will show you now close up. It's a good technique to know how to wrap wool around a pipe cleaner, and if you know how to do that, then you know how to make a mouse. He's very good, actually. He's got his sunglasses on. He probably can't see very well. I'm just going to put them on top of his head. It's not sunny today. There, certainly not inside. There we go. Right, I'm going to be a bit closer up again. So you've got your pipe cleaner length here, which is ready to be wrapped now. And for this, you need to use the other bit of the pink that you left to one side. And I'm starting by establishing these wispy ends into the cover of the pipe cleaner, which is, in this case, it's actually cotton. So this pipe cleaner has got a cotton cover. And now I'm trying to make the wrap as tight as I can by just creating about 1 centimeter across here in pink. And then I'm going to bend that in where the 1 centimeter cover is, so that the bend is now covered in pink. And then I'm going to go around. Hang on a second, I just need to open that again. That wasn't very neat. So then I'm bending it, and now I'm going to go round over the bent part and the rest of the pipe cleaner by wrapping the wool around. Sometimes it works better to actually twist the pipe cleaner and let the wool run from the other side, so you can keep a really nice tension, and that makes a really neat wrap on there. So that's one way of doing it. Now I don't want to go all the way across. I want to go to approximately the middle, and if you've got a little bit much like I have here, just gently tear it off. I don't recommend cutting it, because you don't want to have you need these really wispy ends at the end to sort of sink into the pipe cleaner and into the wool. Right, and then I'm going to repeat that on the other side so you can see it again. I'll use a little bit less because I know I don't need so much. So I'm wrapping a very thin layer of pink onto there, and then once I know that bend is covered, that I'm going to create in a minute, I bend it in, and then the rest of the wool I'm going to cover the pipe cleaner with. So I'm going across, and then sometimes it's actually better to turn the whole thing round, keep the wool in the same hand, but let your pipe cleaner be wound so that the wool wraps around it automatically. And then you go all the way until here I've run out of wool now. I'm just checking. I might actually have to add a little bit now because I need the same thickness of the arms. And if you're doing this, all you've got to remember to start in the same direction as you've started out. So then go back there. So there's no need to pile it on, because you can. It's always better to add more if you need to, rather than having too much on there. I know this is a little bit more bulky, but I'm not worried about this. This is going to be hidden. I'm more worried about my hands are neat, and then the best part of the arm is neat as well. Right, so now I've got my set of a set of arms there, and now I'm going to have to fasten them to the fairy. So for this, I'm bending this wool out of the way there. And I'm going to twist the arms around the base pipe cleaner, not the base pipe cleaner around the arms, it's the other way. So I'm literally twisting these round there, making sure that I've still got the right length arms, so they're both the same. And then I find my face here, where is it? Let's use this side. And I'm going to push the pipe cleaner arms up, so that they sit right under the head now, facing in the right way. I'm looking at the face, you're looking at the back. There you go. And then you use these wispy ends to furthermore secure the arms. So you just wrap them and let them finish at the pipe cleaner end, so that they literally just disappear there. And then you do the same with the other one. There, and wrap it around. So you're just basically taking care of these loose ends so that they're not in the way and that they're secure, and they're gone. If you have got an extra bit of pipe cleaner like I have, you could cut it off, or you could bend it up if you wanted to, just out of the way. So that's what my fairy looks like now. Not much of a fairy yet, right? But it will be. That's the same with needle felting. Sometimes you just have to look beyond what you can see and just trust that it's going to be turning into something beautiful. Right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I've got to give her, I've got to dress her basically. She's pretty naked at the moment, and for this I'm starting out with this lovely, it's such a lovely fresh green, this pale green that we've got, which so if you don't look at it against another color, it could almost be yellow, but as soon as you put it against yellow, you know that it's green. It's that kind of lovely color. So to make this is going to be the petticoat. If I show you on this fairy, she's got it right under there, and it is the purpose for it is to build up a little bit of bulk, so we don't have a really like flat little fairy. We do want them to be nice and I don't know, chubby fairy. So for this, I've got a flat piece here. If you need to make this thinner, then split it by pulling it apart like that. You don't want an awful lot, and you can make it longer by pulling it that way. And if you pull bits off, instead of attaching them like this, just lay them on the top and make them part of the thing, the whole part shape again. So you need a good flat piece that is probably as long as my hand. I've got big hands, by the way, there, like that. And then not poke, but pull a hole in the middle. And that hole in the middle needs to be put over the fairy's head. Remember that's where the front of your fairy is, because that's obviously determines that you've got the face at the front. And then all you're going to do is you're pulling that green wool bat down her. So she's facing you now with her face towards the camera there. And hold this nice and tight, and this is where you need your felting needle again, and all you're going to do is, and I'm just going to zoom in a bit again, all you're going to do is you're just going to stab that neatly down so that it reduces in size, and you're only felting the upper part of the fairy's top there, and you're felting it for as long as you are able then to let go of it, because at some point you need to let go of it and it needs to stay in that place. So we're just literally fasten the top part onto the fairy. Pull her arms up a bit so you can felt it on underneath. There's going to be another layer going over the top, so we're going to put a white top on her, and this is just so that we build up the bulk here around the fairy, so I'm not too worried if it looks a little bit untidy and fluffy. So just stab the needle into the fairy. You can sort of lift her up and almost stab into the air behind it. Like I say, if you have a felting mat, use it by all means, but it really isn't necessary. So I'm not too worried what the back looks like. I'm more worried about what the front looks like. So I do want to close that gap here where the pink shows, and I'm putting the green right into that neckline. And then once you've done that, you're ready to give her her top that goes just over the top here. So for that, you've got this absolutely amazing, this is an Australian merino. It is super soft. It is just, I just could sit here all day and just stroke it. And again, you're putting a hole in the middle there. You only need a very short part, because this is to go over her front at the top. And then you're stroking this down just as you did with a green. Put it into place, pulling it down a little bit like that, and then pinching it just as you did with the green under the arms there. And then all you're going to do is, as you did with the green, you're felting it into place so that you can actually let go of it, and start with under the arms. So you want this to sort of almost look a bit like a shawl that's reaching over her upper arm. Do this all around. So we're not actually flattening this wool at the top, we're just needle felting it so it stays in place. And then do that on the other side as well. Under the arm first. And then just around the waist a little bit. If you have a little bit of green showing at the top, that's not the end of the world, because there is actually a lot of green happens with wild roses. So don't despair about that. If you want to see lots of other tutorials that we do, we have got so many now on our YouTube channel, and they're also live streams. So we're adding every week, we're adding at least 2 new ones. So do go over onto the Makers YouTube channel and subscribe. That would be amazing, because we'd love as many people joining us, having all this fun and joining our happy place. Right, so the fairy now has got a top. I'm not worried about this, because this is going to be completely covered with pink, the lower part, and the top part looks nice and soft. And the next thing I'm going to do is, I've got this lovely pink wool here. I'm actually going to split this in half entirely. And now I've got to broaden one bit out a bit, and I'm fastening the front and the back of the dress on separately. So to do this, I'm just putting the front on like this, and all I'm doing at the moment is I just stab it in, not very much at all, just so that I can let go of it where her sort of waistline is, because I've got a really lovely rose ribbon in the wool in the fairy kit, which I don't think I've even shown you. No, I haven't. Sorry, I've unpacked that fairy kit and the ribbon wasn't in there. So I'm going to show you this now. It was left out. But you get in your fairy kit, you get this lovely rose ribbon, which I absolutely adore, because you can cut individual roses out to decorate the fairy. And you can also use it as a ribbon, and it works so well as a little belt around her waist. And then you're doing the same at the back. So you're just folding a bit of this wool in. I'm not worried at the moment that this is just a one long strand. I'm going to loosen this out shortly. So I'm just getting her dress or her skirt fastened on, and do this all around. If you have a little bit of green poking out, really just ignore that for the moment. What we want to do is get that belt on, and so this looks very untidy and not very neat at the moment, but that's quite all right, because what will happen is, as soon as you put that lovely rose belt on her, you can pull that really tight and give her the waist that we all wish for. There we go. So, and then you also know how many roses you need for her waist, and then you can cut it to measure. So I think I'm going to probably get away with, what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 roses. Oh, do I get away with 4? Let's just see. Yeah, let's make her really tiny around the waist. So I'm going to cut the 5th. I'm going to get away with 4. I know in the past I've used 5 roses, but that's okay. And obviously, if I let go of this now, it will ping open. But what I'm going to do is, this is the back, by the way. You can use a tiny little bit of, you can sew this on if you want, or you can just use a tiny little bit of white wool and stab it into the back so that it goes through the rose fabric and into the back of the fairy. And that will fasten the belt on, and then you can let go of it. And there she has this beautiful decoration around her waist. So now you can work a little bit on tidying her up, because now you know that this is all in place and this is how it's going to stay, and put her arms into a more natural position as well. Felt around the arm a bit more if you feel that needs doing, or just leave it nice and loose, however your fairy has turned out. But there she is now. That's how she looks now. And then here down at the base, you can loosen out these pink fibers so that they become more of a cover and they look a little bit wispier. The best thing what you can do is actually almost sort of teasing, hold on to the body of the fairy and just start teasing a few fibers out, because that will sort of freshen up the look of these wool tops. And like I say, if the sides are showing, that's okay, because it's quite nice to have a little bit of green showing. You can shorten her obviously by pulling more fibers off, but I think that's just given her a bit of a fresher look. But if you like them to be more like this, you could almost twist these ends if that is the look that you like. Whichever way you like your fairy to look. Right, I'm just going to go bigger again. So the next thing is we need to give her hair. And the hair is this lovely, like I said, this lovely wild dyed Leicester curl. And I really think it suits them well, because these wild roses, they do have a really vibrant yellow often in the center. I should wear this. You can make this realistic wild rose with me on Monday the 6th of July at 2 p.m. on YouTube. This could be the first opportunity you're joining us. So I'm putting the hair And you have to pick a little bit of the vegetable matter out of this sometimes, unless you like it in there. Why ever not? They are after all white roses. They haven't been tamed. I'm just going to go small again. And again, you start by felting them on. And what I like doing is fitting a frame around the face. So if you felt this on, then make sure that you sort of start by the side of the head and work your way around. Less is always more with needle felting. You can give her long hair or you can give her a bob. That's entirely up to you again, how you would like to, how you would like your fairy to be. And just to remind you, if you want to join into a conversation here during this tutorial, then hashtag the Creative Craft Show by using hashtag CCS Live. That's all in capital letters, and it's CC as in Creative Craft and then S Show. And if you want to leave a comment for us or want to ask any questions, you need to know something, then tag us. And tagging us you can do by using the squiggly bit, the @sign, and then it's the makers with 2 s's.co.uk. It sounds like an email address or like a website, but it is actually our Facebook tag. And I'm going to go quite wild with this fairy with her hair. Just loving it. Look at this. Ah, wild roses, they need to have a wild aspect to them. So they have these amazingly pretty colors, but they do need a wild aspect to them, and I think the hair will just do fine. So while I'm putting the hair on, I'm actually going to switch the iron on, because I need the iron to make the fairy wings. So I'm hoping that I can reach the plug. So I'm just going to disappear for a minute while I switch the iron on and make sure. There we are. Right, so the iron is on and I'm just finishing the hair off, and she does look lovely. Look at that. Isn't that nice? Like a really wild creature that hasn't been tamed yet. Hurrah! Right, so there's the little fairy. While the iron is heating up, you can start decorating her if you want with little roses on her dress. For this, you've got the rest of your ribbon, and you can just cut individual roses off like that. And then just use a little bit of glue. It always feels a bit weird when you just add glue to a perfect fairy that you've just made. Oh, I think I've almost used that glue up. I've got another glue bottle. Let's use the other one. Ah, this one's not playing. Okay, while I'm waiting for the iron to heat up and the glue to run down to the bottom, that I am going to just tell you that we do all kinds of other kits as well. So if you like the fairy look, we now have our painting with wool large butterfly. That was our last month subscription box, which yeah, you can now buy as a pack. We've also got a butterfly kit. For this one you use water soluble paper, which is a completely different technique. Same with the flower brooch kit that makes 5 anemone flowers. But fairies often get associated with little birds as well, so you could make a little blue tit from our kit. In fact, you can make two blue tits from our kit. And remember, on Monday the 6th of July at 2 p.m. on YouTube, you can learn how to make a life-size, realistic wild rose flower to go with the fairy. But I think the iron's hot now because I can smell it. Okay, for ironing Angelina fiber, first of all you need Angelina fiber, which is here. You need the template, which you will get in your kit, and you need parchment paper, which is here. So the parchment paper I'm going to lay down first, and I've got this halved, so the other half, the flap, is here behind. And then you need your template underneath the parchment paper, and then you're taking small wisps of the Angelina fiber and you're laying it out on the parchment paper the way that the wing, so naturally you imagine the veins would go from the center to the wing part. You get lots of Angelina fiber in there, so you can make the wings really delicate and thin. You could even use a little bit of Angelina fiber in the fairy itself when you're felting it, but I recommend that you don't make the wings too thin, because it's really hard to work with them once they have been bonded. And this is bondable Angelina fiber. That's really important that you use bondable Angelina fiber, or nothing will happen. Right, I'm going to go close up now. So you've got the wings laid out here with the fibers running across it, and I'm folding my parchment paper over the top. I can pull the template out from underneath. I don't really need that to be there. And then you take your hot iron, this is on the hottest setting, and just run it over this laid out Angelina fiber wing. You can sort of leave it on there for a few seconds, and when you've done that, you can see the color sort of almost turns a little bit copper. This is not that they are turning that color, but that's just completely normal. What happens with the Angelina fiber when you iron it, it turns into that slightly different color. And I'm just unplugging. Oh no, that was the wrong plug I've just pulled out. What the heck have I pulled out now? I've pulled the light out. Okay, I'm unplugging the iron. There we are. And then I'm opening this up, and it's literally turned into a film. So it's now a fabric, and best of all, you can actually still see through it. So if you lay your template of the wings over the top, you can see the lines underneath it, and then you use a pen to draw around it. It's best to use a pen that sort of is maybe very nearly the color that you've made the wings of, because then if you cut around it, you don't have to worry so much about the line that you have drawn. If you use black or anything like that, then you see it better while you're cutting, but you might have to make sure that you cut on the inside of that line. And then once you've done that, just cut the wing out of the Angelina fiber like that. It's quite a sturdy film. If you have made the wings and you're not happy because you've got a bare patch or anything like this, just lay more fibers over the top and repeat the process of ironing. It will still fasten onto an already ironed Angelina fiber film. So you can make the wings thicker if you want to. I've known people who draw on them as well, so that you get almost like the individual veins. You can do this with a pen if you want. So now you've got a set of wings. Perfect, and the fairy is ready to receive them. So I'm just going to go a little bit bigger. There's the fairy. There you are. And now you've got options. You can either have to pull the hair out of the way. You can either sew the wings on. You can sew through this Angelina fiber, or you could just add a tiny little bit of maybe pink fiber or white fiber, whatever you've got left over, and felt it on. So for this, I'm just scrunching up a little bit of the pink, put that in the center. I quite like it that there's sort of a center piece, if you like, and just push it through the Angelina fiber and into the wool on the other side. And the wool obviously sort of will disappear more, but the firmer you felt it on, the more the wings will also be coming out, sticking up, so they look more like they're however you like it to look. They look more like they're about to close or about to open. And then just put the hair back into place where it needs to be. And there you've made your little fairy. And then only the very, very last bit, which doesn't need my guidance, you will work this out yourself. Just add a little bit of glue. Let's see if it's run down the right end. Add a little bit of glue on the top of the hand. Yoo-hoo! There it is. And put the bird on her hand like that. Actually, let's turn it around so it's facing her, and then you can decorate the remaining roses from the ribbon if you want. You don't have to. This is the bit I mentioned earlier. It always feels wrong adding glue to her, and then just add these little roses wherever you want them to go. You can use them all or don't use them all if you don't want to over egg the decoration. And there you are. This little fairy is waiting to come to you, whoever you are. So remember, you can win her. Go over onto our Facebook page, The Makers, and we will pick a winner. We have this going all Sunday, so please don't worry that you're going to miss out on this, because we will make sure that you get your bit in there in time. And that's basically the fairy done. Like I said, if you've got questions, especially now, then just tag us with the squiggly bit, The Makers with 2s.co.uk, and get your fairy box if you wish, or maybe make your own fairy, and maybe get the whole collection. There are in total now 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there are 4 fairies in total. So we started with the spring fairy, then the pansy fairy, then the forget-me-not fairy, and now the wild rose fairy. And we will always let you know in advance what's coming. You can save money if you subscribe, but they're also available to buy just as a one-off. So hopefully this one will make its way to you, and it's been absolutely amazing to be part of this. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you so much, Debbie, for doing all of this all day. And I will pass you back to lovely Debbie Shaw now. So see you later, and look after those fairies. Bye bye.